I hate Israel. They place Jewish symbols on top of everything. It is the only country in the world with a Jewish star on the national flag.
You are correct. Other countries place symbols of other religions on their flags. For example, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Switzerland, Greece, and Iceland all have crosses on their flags. The flags of Turkey, Algeria, and Pakistan have crescents, the symbol of Islam. Do you hate those countries?
No, why should I hate them? Christianity and Islam have been around for thousands of years.
That is true. And Judaism has been around thousands of years longer than each of them. What is the relevance to the religious symbol on the country flag?
It is wrong for Israel to declare Judaism as its official religion. There are many people who live in Israel that are not Jewish.
You are right, that Israel does have many people who are not Jewish living in the country, but it does not have any official religion. However, there are many countries that do have an official state religion despite others living in the country. There are 26 countries with Islam as the official religion, including Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, Kuwait, and Tunisia. There are several declared Catholic states including Costa Rica and Monaco. Other countries with declared Christian religions include Denmark, Finland, and Greece. There are also half a dozen Buddhist countries. All of these countries have minorities that do not belong to the official state religion. How does an official state religion offend you? Do you feel minorities in Greece are being antagonized? Do you hate Denmark?
You are not listening to my point. Those countries are entitled to have a state religion as those are established countries and religions for centuries. However, Israel is a new country and Jews just moved there recently. They've changed the dynamic of the land and have put Jewish symbols on everything. Even all of the signs in the country are only in Jewish.
Actually, Hebrew as well as Arabic are both official languages in Israel.
But you see my point. Jews just moved to Israel in 1948 and since then they have been making everything Jewish.
So to be clear, you would not really mind the Jewish star on the flag if Judaism were the official national religion or Hebrew were the only official language, if it had always been that way. Your objection is that you think Jews have not been living in the land for 2,000 years?
Yes. Now you are starting to get my point. The other countries with crosses on their flags and national churches have been like that for centuries. Jews just arrived in Israel and are changing the status quo.
Are you familiar with the history of the Jews? Are you familiar with the Middle East history? I think your feelings may stem from ignorance.
I know that the Jews have been colonizing Palestine with the help of the Americans, English and French for the last 60 years.
Ah, I see. So you are indeed uninformed. Let me give you a very short history of the Jews, and then a short history of the Middle East.
Are you going to tell me that the Bible is your excuse for colonizing Palestine?
I'll just touch on the Bible briefly. You are correct that Jews first came to Israel about 3,400 years ago, and lived there for about 1,500 years. The Old Testament states that God gave the land of Israel to Abraham, and promised it to his descendants, Isaac, Jacob and the generations afterwards. The Bible outlines many laws that Jews can keep only while living in the land. They built 2 temples in Jerusalem, one destroyed about 2,600 years ago, and the other about 2,000 years ago.
Yes. 2,000 years ago. Jews abandoned the country and history had moved on. Jews cannot claim a heritage from generations ago. There are now new people that have moved into the land.
Let me continue. While many Jews were killed 2,000 years ago and brought as slaves to Rome, many Jews continued to live in Israel. They built and lived in important cities including Tiberias, Sfat, Sippori, Yavne, Caesarea and Beit She'arim. They also continued to live in Jerusalem, with the exception of about 50 years after the Crusaders killed all non-Christians around the year 1200. The Jewish quarter of Jerusalem has been around, and housing Jews, since the year 1262.
I did not know that.
Many Jews have also lived outside of Israel for the past 2,000 years, after they were routed by the Romans. During this time they always prayed facing towards Israel, prayed about Israel, and for a day, that they could return to the land. In the year 1881, after many centuries of abuse at the hands of various countries including Spain, Portugal, England, and Russia, Jews decided that it was time to end the abuse from their host countries which did not treat them as full citizens. They decided it was time to stop praying for a return to Israel and actually move there.
That sounds like Zionism.
It is Zionism. Zionism is the return of those Jews that moved from country to country for all of those centuries, back to their homeland of Israel, once again under Jewish rule.
I thought Zionism was about the colonialization of Palestine as a reaction to the Holocaust in World War II. The world felt bad about what happened to the Jews, so they took the Arab-controlled Palestine and gave it to the Jewish survivors.
Incorrect. Jews have always lived in Israel. Zionism and the major influx of the world Jews to Israel began 130 years ago, even before World War I. Zionism had a chance to flourish along with the major changes to the Middle East which began after World War I with the Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1916, in which the French and English carved up the defeated Ottoman Empire.
How so?
England and France each took large sections of the Middle East and began to consider how to allocate the lands to various Arab families and tribes. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration also stated that part of the old Ottoman Empire was going to be a Jewish state, in the area where Jews were living in Palestine.
So you see, it was colonialism. England set up Israel. It was after World War I, not World War II, but still it was colonialism.
Not so. England and France also created all of the countries in the region at this time. Lebanon in 1926, Saudi Arabia in 1927, Iraq in 1932, Syria in 1936 and Jordan in 1946. Are they colonies too?
That is different. That was simply defining borders. The Arab people already lived there.
And Jews were living, and had always lived in Israel too. The additional waves of Jews that were coming from Europe and Russia since the 1880s were coming on their own, not as agents of their governments as an act of colonizing new territory. They came fleeing their governments to their ancestral homeland, to be united with the Jews living in Israel, and to be self-governing and independent of all other governments.
Did you say that Israel was created in 1917? Wasn't it created in 1948?
The decision to allocate various parts of the old Ottoman Empire began in 1916, and specifying that it would include a Jewish country was made in 1917. The actual vote in the United Nations took place in 1948.
Why did it take 30 years from the initial decision to set aside some of Palestine for Jews, until the ultimate vote?
The Arabs were all fighting over their future borders. Syria initially wanted all of Palestine. Jordan laid claim to the land too. To this day, many people feel that had Israel been created at the same time as Lebanon, many of the Jews that died during the Holocaust in Europe would have been saved.
Thank you for the history review. I did not appreciate that the creations of Israel, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon and the whole region were essentially a distribution of the collapsed Ottoman Empire, and that Jews were already living in Palestine. I had always been taught that the UN took away Arab land and gave it to European Jews who survived the Holocaust. What about the Palestinians? What happened to their allocation of land?
The Palestinians, and the Kurds too, are still part of the reallocation process of the old Ottoman Empire, 100 years later. While the Jews initially wanted the borders of Israel to be all of their homeland as detailed in the Bible, which included much of Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon, they agreed to a much smaller allocation of territory. However, the not yet created Arab countries were against any land for a Jewish country, and lobbied and fought against it. Syria tried to absorb all of Palestine before World War II. The local Arabs living in Palestine wanted to have their own country, and lobbied against Syria absorbing Palestine, and against the allocation of land for a Jewish nation also.
Were the Arab countries against the specific borders of Israel initially, or against any Jewish country?
They were against any Jewish nation at all. The Arab countries voted against UN Resolution 181, which would have created a Jewish state alongside an Arab state in 1947. When the UN voted to endorse Israel in 1948, the Arab armies from Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and Iraq attacked Israel to wipe it off the map. When the war ended in 1949, Israel actually gained more territory. Egypt took Gaza and Jordan claimed the West Bank. Those borders lasted until 1967, when the Arabs tried to wipe Israel off of the map again, but the war ended with them losing those territories to Israel, as well as the Golan Heights in the north.
So the Palestinians actually never ran the country Palestine?
No. The English ruled the area after World War I, and then the war in 1948 broke the land into Israel as well as Jordan-controlled and Egypt-controlled territories.
So it has now come to Israel to define borders for the Arabs in Palestine as the English, French, Jordanians and Egyptians failed to do so for the past 100 years?
Essentially. It's ironic that Israel is working to create a country for the Palestinians in land that they wanted for themselves.
Well, I must say it makes sense for each of these relatively new countries in the Middle East to have their own unique culture and demographics. I take back my comments on a Jewish state with a Jewish flag. It is indeed quite common around the world for Christians and Muslims, so there is no reason there shouldn't be a Jewish state and flag. With the millions of Jews living in Israel today, as well as the unique tie that Jews have to the country, I am actually dumbfounded by my prior feeling of animosity.
It is a region that has gone through many changes and wars. It took time, but Egypt and Jordan made peace with the Jewish state. Hopefully other Arab countries will follow soon too.